Hello everyone, welcome to Maple Street, and happy Halloween! Also, happy birthday to John Candy. Instead of throwing a Halloween-themed video at you today, I am honoring one of my favorite actors of all time, John Candy. Yeah, that's right, he was born on October 31st. I love John Candy, he's incredible. He's that actor that just makes everyone happy. I love him so much he has become an icon in my own personal life. Even beyond the screen, I own several shirts that have his face on them. In fact, I had a hard time deciding what to wear for this video. The only reason I chose this one was because it was the one that was most seen on camera. But a lot of people tell me that this doesn't even look like John Candy, that it looks like some random Mexican guy. Today, I am sharing with you my 10 favorite movies from John Candy. Now, he was in a lot of movies. I myself have seen 17 movies of his. I will right now show you which movies I have seen from him, which 17 movies qualify to make this top 10 list today. It was kind of hard ranking his movies. For those of you who are fans of John Candy, you know, yes, he was in plenty of movies where he was in the starring role, but there are also a lot of movies he was in and he just had a cameo in them. It was just a 2-minute cameo or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. He's not the main star, and when that happens, I always have a hard time ranking those kinds of performances and those movies because, I mean, they're not John Candy movies, but John Candy's in the movies. Normally, what I would do is I rank the movies based on the quality of the movie. I'm straying away from that a little bit for this video because there are so many movies that he has a cameo in. I am taking a mixture of the movies he has a cameo in, movies that he's a star in, and making a ranking based on John Candy himself. And so although, like, for an example, my number 10 movie has John Candy in it, I might like it more than my number 8 movie, but I'm ranking 8 higher because John Candy has a bigger presence in that movie. So I'm really focusing on John Candy today. Another very interesting thing about John Candy's career is he wasn't really known for making critically acclaimed movies. In fact, a lot of his movies were really bad, and I found that out as I watched more and more of his filmography. Stupid jokes, stupid situations, movies where you're watching it and you're like, I wish that this could be funnier because I love John Candy so much. I want him to have the best movies possible. And so that was another struggle with making this list. A lot of the movies on this list normally probably wouldn't make a top 10 list, but because his filmography isn't the greatest, I wanted to include them and I want to highlight what I do like about them. Let me clarify, I don't want this to be a video bashing John Candy's filmography. I'm trying to do the exact opposite. I'm trying to praise it. I want to mention that although not all of his movies are my favorite, even his worst movie, I still love him in it. And so with that being said, let's get started with my top 10 movies starring John Candy. At number 10, I have National Lampoon's Vacation. Starting the list off with what I was talking about, John Candy is in this movie for maybe 5-10 minutes. He plays the park worker at the very end of the movie. I haven't seen this movie in over 8 years, and John Candy is a highlight for me. I love his quirkiness. I love how he's this nervous park worker, and he just wants to follow the rules, and before he knows it, he's on the rides with them. It's great. It's a really funny character. I know he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but I had to give him a shout out here. Number 9, I have Little Shop of Horrors, another example of a movie that would normally rank higher, but because John Candy literally has one scene in it, I can't rank it too high. It's not fair to the other movies where he's like a main character in it. Little Shop of Horrors is a blast though. I mean, it is one of the zaniest, darkest musicals I've ever seen. I'll focus more on his scene. He's this radio host and he's really funny. He is a huge multitasker. He's doing 10 things at once. It's such a crazy character and he has such a small scene, but kind of like National Lampoon's Vacation, it's a memorable scene. Cool Runnings is all about John Candy stepping in as a coach for the first Jamaican bobsled team. It has its funny moments, really fun chemistry between the team and John Candy. I think this one ranks a little lower though because I've never loved his character as much as I do his other characters in his filmography. This one has always come off to me as annoyed and peeved. I like it more when John Candy plays just the goofy guy. In this movie, it's like he's he's too serious, and I think he does a great job. So he does a good job in the serious roles. Still a good movie though. With my number 7, we're crossing into familiar John Candy movie tropes. It seems like in all of his movies, he's a character in a film where one bad thing happens after another. My number 7 is Summer Rental. Summer Rental stars John Candy. He's working in this aviation company. There's one day where the boss is watching his work and they see that he clearly is messing up on his job, his tasks, and so they force him to take a vacation. He takes his family, they rent this beach house. From there, a bunch of crazy stuff happens. And this one, of course, got wrecked by the critics, but I had a good time with it. I think what stood out for this one was I really liked the vacation setting, the vibe of going on a family trip. Fun plot there, and then also just being at summertime. I watched it in July. I think that kind of played into it as well. Plus, I did find it funny at parts. It's a family film in the sense that there's a happy ending. There's a scene where the whole family's working together and having a great time. They don't shy away from those family film tropes, but I liked it. I liked the cheese, and of course I liked John Candy now. Number 6 is yet another iconic movie in John Candy's filmography. It is Spaceballs. I cannot help but praise John Candy in this movie. His character of Barf is so lovable and so funny, and now that I'm thinking about it, my favorite character in the whole movie. He's just so good at creating this Mog species and acting like a dog, acting like a man, but it's still John Candy, and it's just so great seeing him in this movie. But yeah, the movie itself, I'm not a big fan of. Sorry, Mel Brooks fans. It's just very hit and miss jokes, but more missed jokes, more misfires. Some funny moments, but mostly it's just crude and stupid to me, and it's not very funny. But John Candy's character is a redeeming factor, and that's why I wanted to rank it higher on the list. Coming in at number 5, I have Delirious. Now, this is, again, a movie that was kind of wrecked by the critics. You know how you sometimes watch a movie and you're like, okay, I see what everyone's saying, like, this isn't objectively a good movie. I liked this one, though. I thought that it was a really clever plot. John Candy, he plays a soap opera writer. One thing leads to a next. He receives an injury and he wakes up inside his own soap opera, and so he's living alongside the characters that he wrote, and he has this typewriter. Anytime he types into it, whatever he types actually happens, and so of course he like builds him up to be this heroic figure and everything. And you know, it's nothing crazy, but it was just kind of a funny, clever, creative time, and there actually were more moments than usual that I laughed in this one. I especially loved the crazy, nonsensical plot of this soap opera. Really funny stuff there, and then there's some ongoing jokes that actually worked pretty well for me, and so overall, really enjoyed this one, and it is my number 5. Only the Lonely is actually a really slept on movie. It's this movie about John Candy. He's still living with his mother, and his mother's played by Maureen O'Hara, which is super cool and random. Oh my gosh, I gotta go. Okay, well, I have to go see a movie, so I'm gonna stop this and I will film the rest later. Okay, bye. Barf! The movie is about John Candy trying to distance himself from his mother. He loves his mother so much, but it's just kind of time for him to move on. But it's very hard for him to detach himself from that relationship. He lives with his mother. It's hard for him to build any relationship with a woman because he cares so much about his mother. He doesn't want anything wrong to happen. And the movie actually has this running gag where he has these visions, these imaginations that something bad is happening to his mother, and those were hilarious without fail. I always really enjoyed those. In fact, I wanted more. I think that was a really funny ongoing gag. I think my biggest con with it is it's a little too wishy-washy. There's just a lot of indecisiveness. It's like, just make a decision and roll with it. There's a lot of, all right, yeah, I love you, and then there's a lot of, nah, never mind, it's not gonna work out, and it just goes back and forth. If you've seen the Best Picture winner Marty, it's very similar to that. In fact, when I watched this for the first time, I was thinking, oh wow, this is so similar to Marty, and then I found out later that this is actually a remake of Marty. So if you like Marty, you'll really like this one. Technically, if I'm going off of main performance, Only the Lonely should be my number 3. But because I just love this movie so much and I can't not have it in the top 3, my number 3 goes to Home Alone. Home Alone to me is a perfect movie. It's a 10 out of 10. I actually love his character in this movie. He plays Gus Polinski, this very likable man who's part of this band. He helps Kevin's mom get home for Christmas, and it's funny because because even as a kid, I just always really liked Gus Polinski. Even when I didn't know who John Candy was, that character was so kind to me and so giving and happy, joyful. And as I grew up and I found out who John Candy was and I saw more of his movies, every time I watch Home Alone now, it is a joy to see him come on the screen. Of course, it's great when he first is introduced and he has the interaction with Kevin's mom in the airport, but I really love their drive and the conversations they have. It always makes me laugh. The story he shares about leaving his kid behind and then him offering her to play his instrument. They're just funny little moments that I couldn't not mention. So Home Alone's my number 3. Uncle Buck is one of my favorite characters of John Candy's filmography, and really in general, this is a movie that every time I watch it, I seem to like it more. It's able to balance some genuinely funny scenes and deserve that genre of it being a comedy, but it's also able to include some serious scenes, and it even saves some room for John Candy to give a compelling performance. Plus, the movie has a sweet message about family and how we do things for our family because we love them, even if we don't always get along with them. It's a good message in that regard. I always, without fail, laugh at the scene where he announces, "I brought the cat in," and then Macaulay Culkin's character says, "We don't have a cat," and it's like, throws it back outside. I love that scene. Or the scene where he tells the teacher off in the school. That is such a funny scene to me. Part of the reason it's so funny is because of the kid's reaction, who's listening in on the conversation. Not enough people talk about that kid's reaction. It is so great. There's so many funny moments in this movie. It makes for a great time, and I love it every rewatch. Coming in at number 1, it should be absolutely no surprise to you. I've kind of been hinting to you the whole video with this poster right here. It's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I saw this movie for the first time back in 2019. I have not missed a year of watching it since then. And the fact that I've seen it every year since my first viewing speaks to how rewatchable it is. It also is very funny. It's the funniest John Candy movie. In my opinion, it's his most iconic role. I love Del Griffith. Steve Martin is a great pair for him. They're just a very good duo. There's so many silly, wacky, crazy moments, but then there's also, kind of like Uncle Buck, some room for some heartfelt moments. I mean, it's almost like they were directed by the same person. Every time I watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I'm laughing at scenes. Even though I know they're coming, they still get me. I will always love John Candy dressed up as the devil. I'm going to rank the transportation methods. In 6th place, the train. It's last place because we don't get a lot of time on the train. By the way, I'm looking down because I'm reading my review. Cool. The train is last place only because they don't ride it together. It almost shouldn't even be on the list. Number 5 is the food truck. Not too much happens here, but the scene prior to it has a very transition into the food truck, so I like that. Number 4 is the truck. I love this because of the dog. Number 3 is the bus. It's just hilarious watching the whole bus sing the Flintstones theme song, and they're looking at Steve Martin like he's some crazy person. Number 2 has to go to the plane. It's where they officially start talking to each other in an area where they're stuck together. I mean, it gives you a feel for what you're getting yourself into. And number 1 is the automobile. Everything that happens in the automobile is hilarious to me. I love John Candy dancing to the radio. I love the scene of him getting his jacket sleeves stuck, them going the wrong way, and the bickering between the two, and the couple across the road. I love John Candy dressed up as the devil. I love the shot of skeletons. And then later when the car burns, and it's incredible. It's so incredible. It's so funny. It's so iconic and just timeless. I love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, if you couldn't tell. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and thank you for spending some time honoring John Candy. I hope that this video could be a way to honor his legacy. It's interesting. I wasn't even alive when he passed away, but yet I still feel so sad about his early loss. This is a video for him, honoring him and his legacy. Happy birthday, John Candy. Happy Halloween again, and thank you again for another great year of Halloween. Have a great day, everyone.